All right. Alrighty, guys. Welcome into the After Schrock. I apologize that took a little bit longer than I would have liked there. I had to take care of Kayla's situation and make sure that the staff in Lincoln knows what to do with that. I had to go back and look at the tech notes to find out what was going on with her computer, and I suspect that she has a solid-state hard drive that's running too slow. She is 6 months out of warranty. So in my head, I'm imagining how this played out in the service center. Customer has a 1.5-year-old modular or sort of solid-state laptop. Solid-state hard drive is starting to go slow on it. It's not failing, but it's slowing. And maybe it's, we consider it should be operating at like 1,200 miles an hour, but maybe it's only operating, at 300 we call it bad. Okay, it should be at 1,200. So at 300 we say that's a bad drive. If she is noticing that level of slowness in the computer, it has nothing to do with Windows 11. Going back to Windows 10 is not going to solve the problem. She's saying, I noticed the problem started happening after I upgraded to Windows 11. It's entirely possible. It's a hard drive intense activity to upgrade. It's entirely possible that, going without it for a period of time, getting it back for a week, and then, I don't know. It sounds like the hard drive's running slow, and it shouldn't be. So what I'm wondering happened here is if the guys in the service center say, well, it's slow, but it's not that slow, and we don't want to charge her, it's going to cost her she doesn't have a warranty. I don't see that anybody offered her an extension on her warranty, which means that there was probably some doubt as to whether or not the hardware was completely good to go. But okay, let me give you an idea of. I try to give my technicians leeway to develop solutions for customers that are appropriate for that customer. So if you're my customer and you come in to like the Omaha Service Center or the Papillion Service Center, I'm working a shift and you come in with this situation, I call you back and I say your hard drive is bad, you need to replace it, that's why it's running slow. If it's my computer, I replace the hard drive. You might remember 2 weeks ago I was starting the show and I said something like, yeah, sorry about that, guys. I had to reboot my computer because it blue screened on me out of nowhere and I had to deal with it, right? Well, that happens from time to time, whatever. So then a few days after that, I was using my laptop in the service center. I don't usually use this laptop for anything other than streaming the show. But I had to pull it out to do something in the service center and I went to boot it and I just noticed, it was taking like 35 seconds to boot. And I mean, for most people, like, gee, Thor, oh, woe is me, 35 seconds to boot your computer. That's a long time on one of our modular, on a holiday special from last year, that's a long time. It should be booted in like 6 seconds or less. And so it definitely wasn't. And so as a result, I tested my own hard drive speed. And sure enough, a holiday special from last year, so it happens to everybody. It happens. These hard drives slow down over time. Solid state hard drives are not perfect. Mechanical hard drives are consistently slow. They're slow all the time, all day, all night, year after year after year. You get that consistent slow performance. Solid state hard drives are incredibly fast, but they can wear out over time. And there's a lot of factors that go into how full the drive plays a factor in that. How much you use the drive, what you're doing on the computer has a factor in that. If you save a bunch of movies to the computer and you're just watching movies all day long, that you've saved to the hard drive, anything that's intensely using the hard drive, if you're mining Chia coins on the hard drive, anything like that is going to cause the hard drive to wear out. This particular customer, now, when I give technicians the ability to formulate these solutions, I've seen the movie so many times, I know where it's going to end, right? So let's say you have a computer that is running at 301 miles an hour. I'm going to call you and I'm going to say, your computer's it should be running at 1,200 miles an hour, but it's running at 301. 300 is considered failing. So this is like your arteries are 99.9% blocked. I mean, you're like a pressure hose of blood going in there, but you're still alive and your heart's still beating. I'm sure you're fine for another 6 months. Have a great day. No, I'm going to tell you, let's replace the hard drive. From a training perspective with technicians and human beings, especially young human beings that are learning, they need a structure to work within, right? So what is a failing drive? 300. Is 301 greater than 300? Yes, therefore not failing. Check. right? So I've seen the movie so many times that I'm going to tell you your hard drive is not technically in a failure state right now, but within 6 months it could be completely dead because you're trending in that direction big time. So let's take care of this while I've got it on my bench. Let's prevent the problem from happening. So with Kayla's computer, she's got her computer back and it's running slowly. It's been back in the service center. They had it for a week, which tells me that they were doing all kinds of testing on it, trying to determine why it's operating as slowly as it is. What would I have done differently? Well, I probably would have cloned it to. So my guess is it's passing its hard drive test, but there's something not right. There's something, and the only component of the computer that really loads data is the hard drive. So they already went through, they optimized all the startup items, they did all that stuff already to speed it up, to reduce the load, but the load shouldn't matter on a modern hard drive. Like if you have one of our solid state hard drives, the load, I mean, yes, so maybe instead of 6 seconds, it's 12 seconds if you have a really heavy load. But it shouldn't be something where you're like noticing how slow the computer is. You shouldn't notice that. So I would probably just clone everything to a new hard drive and put the new hard drive in and see if everything magically works well. Because there are some rare occasions where our testing tools tell us that everything is working fine and everything should be working fine, but it's not. Let me give you an example. This happens in medicine too. The lovely Kimberly has a problem with her ankle right now. Basically, there's a tendon that's snapped or something and a bone that's cracked or sheared off, and she's going to need some surgery on her foot to fix it. She was walking on that foot for 2 weeks. She thought she had a sprained ankle, and so she was walking on it for 2 weeks. She goes in to see the podiatrist, and the doctor's like, you have a structural instability in your foot. Your foot should be a bag of bones right now grinding around on each other. I don't know how the hell you're walking. This is medically impossible. So it happens in medicine too, right? Like, I don't know how you're up and moving right now because you should be dead, or something like that, It passes all the tests. I can get up on it. I can walk on it. At the end of the day, it's a little swollen and a little purpley, and it hurts. But the morning it's fine. That kind of thing. Where it gets worse and worse and worse over a period of time, and you don't really notice it, or you think it's not so bad, or And in this case, she's bringing the computer into us and saying there's something not right, and we're running every test we've got on it, and it says everything is right. So if the person who uses the computer day in and day out says something isn't right, I tend to believe their perception rather than my tests. And so I'm going to start just replacing components to see what happens there. Now, there's a limit here, obviously, right? I mean, I'm not going to send it out the door with a new hard drive in it and say, give me $300 and see if that solves the problem. Oh, it didn't? Okay, bring it back and we'll try the next thing. That's not quite what I mean. What I mean is, can I put a new hard drive in it and see that it demonstrably is faster? And if that's the case, there we go. So I did send a message, Kayla, if you're watching, to the Lincoln Service Center this morning to give you a call back to have you bring that back in so that we can run another test on the hard drive. It won't be a week this time, I promise. But we're just going to replace the hard drive and see if that fixes the problem. And if it fixes the problem, unfortunately, it's not under warranty anymore, which is probably why they were shying away from doing that unless they had a test that confirms that it was bad. One of the things, like any business, we have numbers, right? We have goals that we want to meet, and my staff is aware of those goals, and they are aware of how to get to those goals. Like, how many tickets do we need? What's the average ticket? Things like that. All those businessy things are there, but they are overridden by a moral code that we never sell anything to anyone that they don't need. So if we say your hard drive is bad at 300 and your hard drive tests at 301, it would be a mortal sin at Schrock Innovations to sell you a hard drive that you don't need. Now the question is there more information aside from what the tests are giving us? Do you actually need it, but the tests are saying you don't, but you actually need it? We've all had that happen in medicine too, right? You go in for a test on something, they say, you're healthy as a horse, and you obviously know something is not right. You're like, something's not right with me. I know this, but you're telling me I'm totally healthy, but I'm not. I know I'm not. So you're not finding it. There's something else lurking under the surface. Can we do some investigative medicine, which of course health insurance will never pay for? Well, that's what I want to do with Kayla's computer. I want to do some investigative medicine to find out if we replace that hard drive, does everything magically go up to the moon again? If that's the case, label that hard drive as bad. Let's replace it. Let's solve Kayla's problem, because my guess is Kayla wants a laptop that's fast and she wants it to work. And you guys all know, watching, hopefully you all know, that you really, really need to keep your computers under warranty. It makes complete sense at Schrock to do it, because if you don't use the warranty, you get your money back. We've even automated the process now. Even McDonald's has automation now, but we've automated the process. So now the system will actually refund you automatically, and then send you robocalls to renew and things like that, to let you know that you have a warranty that is expired, and then you have the opportunity to renew it. But you'll have a credit on account if you haven't used your warranty to renew it with. So it's a beautiful system. It doesn't make so much sense sometimes with Dell or HP to buy the warranties, because they don't have that refund guarantee. And you could go 2 or 3 years and never need a warranty, and then all of a sudden one day have a catastrophic problem that you need a warranty for. Keep your stuff under warranty at Schrock, because if Kayla was under warranty right now, they would have just replaced everything and sorted out the problem later on our time. We would have tested everything and figured it out on our time, rather than Kayla's time. But because Kayla's not under warranty, we have to be really careful that we're not selling her stuff she doesn't need. We want to make sure we have the best possible solution for Kayla. And we're at that point now where I understand what the guys are trying to do, but we're at the point now where following the rules is impacting customer service. Customer service is the number one thing. That's what separates us from everybody. So if you have a rule that's getting in the way of you solving a problem for a customer, throw a hand up, say, hey, manager guy, I'm going to break a rule, and then break it. And then tell us why you broke the rule. And if it said, well, hey, Kayla was having a terrible experience with her solid-state laptop. She needed a new hard drive. It passed the test. I replaced it with a new hard drive, and suddenly everything worked great. So there's something that wasn't getting detected in a test that was causing the hard drive to intermittently not work properly. Sometimes it was fast when we tested it, for example. Sometimes it was slow. Maybe it's fast on the particular type of test we're doing, but slow when it's used intermittently. When it's not like our test maxes out the hard drive and goes. Whoosh. So anyway, I'm probably boring the hell out of you now. But anyway, that's the way we do things at Schrock. So when I get a call like this from Kayla, it's frustrating, because I can see from the paperwork what happened. I know the guys there. I can see what happened. And I know that they had Kayla's best interest at heart, but obviously Kayla's problem is not solved, and we're here to solve problems. So this is one of those growth experiences. We have some newer technicians in the Lincoln Service Center. This is one of those growth experiences where they're going to look at this and learn from this and say, okay, so it's okay to break the rules when it makes sense to break the rules. Yes, as long as you can justify to me and to the customer why you're breaking the rules. So if I go to Kayla and I say, your hard drive tests fine, Kayla, but you need to buy a new hard drive. How do I know that? Well, I cloned everything over onto your new hard drive and I put it in the computer, and your computer works beautifully. So obviously there's something in my test that it's not detecting. There's something wrong with this hard drive. We need to replace it. Unfortunately, you're not under warranty, so we need to charge you for the hard drive, but I would encourage you to place an extended warranty on the computer after we replace the hard drive to keep it protected in the future going forward. Ta-da! Customer is served. Customer's problem is solved. Yes, it's not fun because customer has to pay, but the customer's problem is taken care of, and we have now prevented future problems. And the more times you do this over and over and over with a person, the more trust you build. One of the things that I wanted to say thank you to all the people who, we've been a little short-staffed in Omaha, so I've been spending a lot of time there. A couple days a week working pretty much open to close, a couple days a week in there. And I had the opportunity as a result to talk one-on-one with a lot of customers. And it's kind of funny because customers don't know who I am, because you see when I'm working, see, I Clark Kent you. You don't know who I am now until I talk, and then they're like, you sound so familiar. But I in the service center, people are talking about the radio show and how they listen to it. They don't realize they're talking to me. It's kind of funny. And we thank them for listening and everything else. And I had a guy pull me aside and say, for everything that you guys do here, you have no idea how helpful it is for people like me who don't know a lot about computers, who need someone that we can rely on to help solve computer problems when they come up, and to know that we're not being taken advantage of. And these are all the reasons that I started Schrock in the first place are encapsulated in these conversations. and we're still doing those things. It's just part of the nature of what Schrock is now. So you don't think about your nature, right? You don't sit and think, wow, it sure is special that we don't screw people. You know, you don't think about that. But and then of course you do it every day. You go day in day out. You go and do your job, and it becomes normal for you. It becomes kind of old hat, right? So when customers come up to us and tell us how special what we do is, and especially when they tell us that in front of my employees, especially my newer employees, it creates a buy-in that you can't pay someone to get. When, for example, we have an employee we just hired recently. I won't give details. So this employee used to work at a tanning salon, and one of the reasons that she left the tanning salon was because they were basically shuttling the bulbs in the tanning machines have to be replaced after a period of time, right? And so she says, I'm selling people sometimes hundreds of dollars a week in these tanning lotions, and then they're going into the tanning beds and they're replacing the bulbs in the tanning beds with bulbs that were pulled from other tanning beds that were dead. So basically, or not dead, but not putting out the proper UV rays. You have to replace the bulbs every so often. So rather than replacing the bulbs with new bulbs, what they're doing is they're taking the bad bulbs from one location and then shipping them to another location and saying, hey, look, new bulbs, and putting them in the machine. So the employees are all like, oh, we have new bulbs. But the people are not getting tan. She's noticing her customers are not getting tan, despite the fact they're spending hundreds of dollars a week to get tan. Why are they not getting tan? Because this place is putting bad bulbs in the machines on purpose. They are stealing from their customers. And she literally got to the point, she goes, I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stand there and sell people tanning lotions to help them tan when I know they're not going to tan because the machines are not doing what they think the machines are doing. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't take it. I'm surprised she took it as long as she did. But how many of their other employees don't even know that's happening, because that's why they're moving the bulbs from location to location. So you employees see you taking the bulbs out and putting new bulbs in, and you go to the next location. Well, the repair guy confided to her, we're just taking bulbs from one machine and sticking them in another machine. They're the same bulbs. We're not buying new bulbs because new bulbs are expensive and, expensive. So she couldn't take that anymore, so she comes to work at Schrock. And now she's in a culture at Schrock where we don't sell people things they don't need. We don't rip people off. If a customer like Kayla was, for example, let's say Kayla had purchased an extended warranty and then it rolled off, like she never used it, right? I'm going to stop and say, did she get her credit back for that warranty? Did she get her one? At least does she have $125 credit on account for us to apply toward the repair at least? Maybe she doesn't have a warranty, but it should have rolled off. She should have a credit on account. Let's check these things to make sure there wasn't a mistake in the system. Is there any way I can do this for Kayla at a lower cost than what I'm already doing it as? And if the answer is no, well, then the answer is no, but we check. And that's the kind of thing that we're impressing on our new people as they come in. So when you as customers come into the service centers and tell, especially these new guys, how much you appreciate what they're doing, to them it's not special. This is what they do. It's not different. It's not special. It's not awe-inspiring in any way. It's normal for them. But they haven't matured to the point sometimes to realize that this is not normal for other people. And when you realize that not everyone in the world is like you, there are people who are electricians, and I don't have that skill set. There are people who are plumbers, and I don't have that skill set. There are people who build things out of wood. I do not have that skill set. The lovely Kimberly hurt her ankle, and so she's like, oh, I was going to tear up this floor in here and take the tile up, and she has like the tile hammer she rents, and I'm like, well, I could do that for you. And she said, Thor, literally, I love how she made it into a compliment. She said, removing the tile is like a meticulous thing. It has to be done perfectly, piece by piece, and I'm not sure you have the patience to do that. You're more of a get it done, go, 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 go kind of guy, which is why you're good at what you do. Well, you're so good at what you do, she said. But I'm not sure this would be a good fit for you. She was like, maybe the person with a busted ankle would be better than you to operate the machine. I'm like, Okay. All right. Are you saying I don't have to tear up the floor? Okay. I can live with that. But yeah, it's kind of like that. You have different people with different skill sets, and and sometimes those are complementary, and sometimes they're not. So our trick at Schrock is finding people who have the ability to do the tech work or learn the tech work, but are decent human beings that can actually empathize with people and help people. And when you find those people, those are the people you cling to, because anybody can be trained how to be a technician. All right, so let's get into some fun stuff. I was perusing the internet yesterday, and I found this. It was like 20 lost technology things from like thousands of years ago, and the whole concept of the article was like, these are 20 things that indicate advanced technology was present in ancient civilizations. So one of them was in like an Egyptian hieroglyph, and there was this hieroglyph like bulb-looking thing with a like a shepherd's staff with a hook on it in the middle, and if you turn it sideways, it looks like a light bulb. And they're like, Egyptian light bulb? And I'm like, come on, Egyptian light bulb, what? Well, then I came across this thing about a Greek computer, and I'm like, what? So sure enough, there's this device, and it's called I'm going to butcher this, the Antikythero mechanism, and it was a computer that computed astrological motions of the stars, the moon, and the sun for navigation, for nautical navigation. So you didn't have to use, I guess, your astrolabe or whatever, to do it. And this computer was so hard to use, apparently, that they had an instruction manual. They inscribed it on the side of the box the computer is in. It was all these writings on the side of how to use the darn thing. But basically, this is the world's oldest clockwork analog. With a name like this, you'd think that it was the world's oldest clockwork analog computer. It sounds like a fictional device from a steampunk era. It was fished up from a very real ancient shipwreck found off the coast of a Greek island in 1901. The Greek island was Antikythera, which is where the device name comes from. It dates back as early as the 2nd century AD. That's 200. Okay? Or wait, 2nd century would be 0 to 100, 200 to 300 would be, so 200 plus AD. 1,000 years older than anything that even remotely is similar in its complexity, such as like a clock tower developed in Europe in the 14th and 16th century. At first glance, it looks like a bunch of rock with etchings on it. It's really a shoebox-size astronomical calculator full of 30 meticulously crafted bronze gears and a crank that can be rotated to predict positions of the stars and the moon over the course of an entire year. They hit it with an X-ray to see what was inside of it. They see the writing on the side of the machine, an array of meticulously crafted tiny teeth that interlocks each of its gears on the inside. Essentially, it's a quick fix for doing a lot of painful calculations by hand, especially for nautical navigation. The machine was apparently quite complex to use and difficult to understand because it came with its own user manual. So there are gears and mechanisms in this machine that have never been replicated in any modern clockwork because they're so ingenious. No one ever thought of it again. And it just goes to show you like how much the world has forgotten. This was an ancient Greek calculator. I mean, the Germans had the Enigma machine, and that was like, ooh, wow, it was a mechanical computer. We had bomb sites in World War II that were mechanical computers that helped you target bombs from bombers. And now, the technology, of course, has come to the point we don't need mechanical computers anymore, just like you don't need mechanical hard drives anymore. Now you need solid-state drives. The technology marches on. But I just thought that was really cool to see this ancient piece of technology from back in the day. I don't know. It made me smile. So let's take a look at comments, see what everybody else has to say this morning. Good morning, Mary. Good morning, Mitch. Roger, good to have you. Thomas, Cheryl, and Rich are here. Sebastian says, why do public places like banks, post offices, and hospitals use old operating systems like Windows, XP, Vista, and 7 and 8? Simple question is because they're running software that was custom designed for them that will only run on those operating systems. And to upgrade the operating system requires them to have new software developed, which requires a request for purchase, which requires someone to plan it, which requires someone to evaluate it, which requires everyone to get retrained on new software, and everybody's 5 years from retirement. So no. So the sad thing is there are still places getting updates for Windows 7 and Windows XP. Microsoft will still make updates for them, but you pay dearly for them, and they're exclusive to you. It's almost like you have your own team at Microsoft making updates. So as the pool of, let's say, Windows 7, a lot of hospitals are still using Windows 7. As the pool of Windows 7 customers gets smaller for the paid support alternative, the amount that the team collects in paid support stays the same. So if the pool of customers gets smaller, that means each customer is paying more and more and more. And usually the federal government is the last customer to walk away. And then when they lose that contract, then they retire the team and they move them on to another operating system. Most hospitals are off of XP by now. A lot of them are still on Windows 7, unfortunately. They're way behind. Windows 8, not a lot of them got on Windows 8 because Windows 8 was such a dog of an operating system. Everybody stayed on 7, and then they went straight to 10 after that. Some places are on 10. Very, very few are on 11 at this point. There's a lot of reasons for that. The federal government requires testing, code testing, before they can run any kind of software in government computers. So, for example, 22H2 comes out, it'll be like 3 years before the federal government runs 22H2 in their computers because it's not approved yet and they can't install it. So there's a lot of reasons, Sebastian, why places do that. Unfortunately, the security, it causes... The idea is to prevent a security incident in a zero-day vulnerability by running software that you know is reliable and safe, that is being made more reliable and more safe through patches every day. The problem is Windows 7 has fundamental flaws in it that make it vulnerable that can't be patched. And so as a result, you end up with hacks and problems and things like this. Wouldn't surprise me a bit if like CHI got hit with one of these memory-based ransomware infections or something along those lines. All it takes is one person to make one mistake in a system like a hospital system, and it can spread throughout everything. And it looks like there was no firewalls, no checks and balances, or there were. It got through them to detect the activity that was happening, and the system's going offline one at a time, basically. Like, oh, what's going on? Something's not working. And then by the time the IT administrators figured out what was going on, it was too late. So unfortunately, it is what it is. I missed most of the radio show. Fell asleep and woke up just before the end. Well, Aaron, you didn't miss much. It was fine. It was a kind of a boring show. We talked about like video cables and ransomware infections. I mean, it was just go tune into Kim Commando and put a Band-Aid on your webcam. I have seen so many friggin' computers coming in with Band-Aids on the webcams. And I'm like, what is with the Band-Aids? And they're saying, well, Kim Commando says put a Band-Aid on your webcam. And I'm like, this woman had like one of those like gauze wound care. It was folded over the top. I'm like, you use like a wound care gauze bandage. So that's all I had. I'm like, yeah, we don't want to go buy a Band-Aid to put on there. I'm like, if I was going to do this, I would get one of those little butterfly Band-Aids, just a little tiny Band-Aid. But, put a Band-Aid over your webcam. I get it. That's why the 2022 Holiday Special desktop that comes equipped with a webcam has a privacy shutter that you can slide to block the webcam so you don't have to put a Band-Aid on it. Because, my God, Band-Aids on your screen, really, on your touch screen? That's not a good idea. But Kim Commando said it, so everyone's going to do it. But apparently a lot of you guys listen to Kim Commando because I've seen a lot of Band-Aids. I'm like, these computers, is there a crack on the screen? Like, what's going on here? Like a Band-Aid? It's to cover the webcam. Kim Commando told us to. Oh, boy. Alrighty. All right. Oops. I clicked on the wrong thing. Go back. There we go. Sorry, I was clicking on comments to make sure I was keeping up with everybody here. Boy, and Facebook is really weird. Like, I went through the comments. Roger's back with us. Thomas is here. I went through these already, and these people were not here before. Facebook is really weird with comments lately. All right, let's see. Sounds like the same autonomy I had at Omaha Steaks Customer Care. Their attitude was keep the customers happy because happy customers return. This is very true. If you tick people off, they don't come back. As a rule. Anyone have a recommendation for someone that dolls with LVP. she's looking for a floor installer now. Oh, because she doesn't want me to do it. No. Let's see. I use dual monitors on my holiday special desktop. Do the video cards have 2 DP ports? They do not. No. I don't see it if they do. Am I missing something? No, they don't. Basically, when you're running dual monitors from one of the older holiday specials, one of the connectors has to be VGA. So you're probably set up for the best possible scenario without buying an add-on graphics card. If you buy an add-on graphics card, a lot of them do have multiple display ports now, at least 2. Usually 2 display ports and an HDMI. They usually don't have DVI on the advanced cards anymore, and they definitely don't have VGA anymore. So it's the world's changing, and the technology is getting to the point where we're seeing once in a while, once every 10 years or so, you have like a fundamental roll where some stuff just gets aged out, and we're getting to that point here with Windows 11 where we're going to have this fundamental roll where you're going to see, one day a bunch of printers just isn't going to install with the new version of Windows 11. Sorry, your printer is no longer compatible. Sorry. You're going to see monitors that are aged out, not because there's anything wrong with the monitor, but because the connector is different. So you just these little things. The holiday specials all come with USB-C ports on the back and on the sides now too. They still have regular USB ports, but they have the USB-C port because everything is going USB-C now. So if we don't include these ports, our customers are going to get left behind because we want you to use these computers for a decade plus. So we can't be thinking about what you're using today. We have to think about what the standard is going to be a decade from now. And a decade from now, everybody will be using DisplayPort or HDMI. There won't be any DVI. There won't be any VGA left. Everyone will be on those 2 skewed toward DisplayPort because that's what all the new monitors are going to come out as. That's just how it's going to be. And eventually people through attrition will replace their old monitors with new ones, and then, we'll be back. In the meantime, we're going to carry a lot of adapters in stock because, people are going to get home and they're like, I want to hook up my old monitor as a second monitor, but I don't have a VGA port on the holiday special. Well, here's a VGA to HDMI adapter, $90. There you go. So that's how we fix it right now. Alrighty, Air Force mission. I hate how the little smiley faces pop up and I can't read the comment because the smiley faces pop up. The Air Force mission sites still use an 8-inch floppy disk. Oh yeah, the nuclear missiles. Nuclear missiles are launched off floppy disks. Why? Floppy disks can't be hacked. Super tech, right? And honestly, I think when you're launching nuclear missiles, having some technological delay between we're ready to launch and we can launch is a good thing, right? If you put the disk in and you have to wait 30 seconds before the program loads to target the missile, you might forget what you're doing. You might go get some ice cream. You might, decide not to launch the missile. You might think you're doing something different, or you're walking away, or I don't know. You might just need that time to cool down a little bit. You know what I mean? And then forget what you're doing so that you don't launch these nuclear missiles. There was some rumors floating around, and these are just rumors. Potentially not even true. There's so much disinformation going on that it's not even funny. So take this not with a grain of salt. Take this for the fraction of a grain of salt dissolved in water. But there's rumors flying around that Putin tried to actually launch a tactical nuke into Ukraine, and that it failed either due to people not carrying out his orders or to technical failure. That it was supposed to happen, but it didn't. Again, who knows? Now, Russians are saying the Ukrainians are going to blow up a dam that's going to flood a bunch of their cities and prevent them from pursuing Russian forces further. The Russians say the Ukrainians are going to blow up this dam. And the Ukrainians are like, why would we blow up our own dam? You're going to blow up the dam, and you're trying to say that we did it before it's even blown up. We're not going to blow up our own dam. But maybe the Ukrainians will blow it up so that people think the Russians blew it up, so that people will hate the Russians even more, and they'll get more stuff from the West. See, it's like 3-dimensional chess, baby. False flag attacks. So, it's who knows what's really going on. But what I can see through reading Telegram channels from, and some of the video and pictures are really hard to look at because, they don't... It's not like the evening news where they have blurs and sensors. Like, no, you see everything that they're seeing in the field when you watch these Telegram channels. But they're pushing the Russians back. The Russians are retreating. Right now they're doing a tactical retreat from the Kherson Oblast region. The thought here is the Russians are steeling themselves for winter. So they are going to pull their forces back to preserve their good forces. They're using their conscripted forces to cover the retreat of their trained forces. The conscripted forces will not get the opportunity to retreat, if you know what I mean. They're going to hold off the Ukrainians while the regular forces retreat. Once those regular forces have retreated, winter will set in. That'll give them time to train. That will also give them the opportunity. That's why they're blowing up all the infrastructure in Ukraine right now. They're blowing out the power plants. They may knock out a dam, generates electricity as well. The reason they're doing all this is because they want Ukraine to freeze through the winter. Because if you're worried about keeping your people alive, it makes sustaining a war effort even harder. And so without the ability to get fuel, without the ability to generate your own electricity, without the ability to heat your homes, with your roads blown up and your railroads blown up and random missile strikes happening all around you, it can make life very hard. They're trying to break the will of the people, very, very much like Blitzkrieg, style. The way Hitler tried to break the will of the UK people by intermittently bombing their cities. That's what's happening in Ukraine right now. It's not a desperation ploy. This is a plan. Russia's going to destroy their infrastructure and then pull back their forces, let the Ukrainians retake a bunch of land, and then let them freeze through the winter, let them starve through the winter, and then with their better trained, retrained forces, opportunity to resupply their forces with new equipment, then they're going to advance back on Ukraine again and try and take another bite at the apple. So, yeah, is Ukraine going to stop for the winter is the question. If they don't, then the Russian plan doesn't really work, right? But if they have to stop, who knows? So anyway, that's what's kind of going on over there right now from what I'm reading on Telegram channels anyway. Schrock says, the lovely Kimberly is taking on Kim Commando, the digital goddess. And she says, no Band-Aids on the screens, anybody. Don't do it. It leaves a residue, it's sticky, and it looks bad. A little square of electrical tape is all you need. It's black. It blends in. It's stylish. You can put rhinestones around it. It's beautiful. In fact, why don't you just cover your webcam with a rhinestone? I mean, why not? Just glue it right on there. It's the same thing. The lovely Kimberly says no, use electrical tape. All right. Corey says, good morning. Would it be smarter to have a special computer for banking and a different one for general internet usage with cybersecurity in mind, or would it be useless because of the internet access point? Well, this reminds me of like people who get NAS boxes. I just finished recovering a NAS for a customer in the service center. A network attached storage box is a box that has multiple hard drives in it. The idea being, if you have multiple hard drives and one fails, the others will take over and you can tolerate the failure. So you can take out the bad drive, put in a good drive, and then it resynchronizes everything, and you have fault tolerance now, right? The problem is consumers don't pay attention. So, and some network administrators don't pay attention too. And so one hard drive fails, you can tolerate that. The system just keeps working, right? Nobody notices the blinking red light. Ooh, that's bad. And then a second hard drive fails. And now the system is offline. It can't tolerate two drives down. And now you're in a data recovery situation. So customers will buy these boxes thinking that they're impervious backups because they never break because they're redundant, not realizing they require constant monitoring and maintenance to ensure that they remain that way. So the question becomes, do you get more or less protection against hard drive failures by introducing more hard drives, by introducing more opportunity to fail? If each hard drive has a 10% chance of failing in a given year, and you buy 5 hard drives, what are the odds that you will have one of the 5 hard drives fail in a year? Pretty good, actually, because you have so many hard drives. You've increased the likelihood of experiencing a failure. It may not be a catastrophic failure, but you're trading the level of failure for the likelihood of having a failure. You're going to replace a drive every year probably. Yeah, so having two computers to do your internet separating, trying to create like a separation, you would be using the same access point. It doesn't make a ton of sense to do it because now you have to protect two devices, so you're paying double protection to protect two devices. Because even though you're only using that one for banking, you still need to protect it. You still need to have Sophos. It still needs Secure Updater. It still needs Windows updates. It still needs 22H2. It still needs all the things that your main computer needs. But your main computer will be the one that takes the brunt of any immediate infection because it's the main computer. So I don't think you gain a whole lot by separating it off for that reason. Back in the old days, you could air gap computers, which still isn't completely safe because you can transmit viruses through sound files now, through audio and speakers. It's crazy. But that's one of the ways they got into the Iranian centrifuges. Is the virus actually transmitted tones the human ear can't hear out of the speakers of one computer to the microphone of another computer to infect an air-gapped computer. It was insane. So air gapping is like, I have a computer, I never connect it to the internet, it is not connected to the network, it is completely its own isolated machine for doing its own isolated purpose, which wouldn't work for online banking, obviously, because it's online. So air gapping doesn't really work for modern stuff that needs to be connected. Did you see the video of the previous China leader getting removed from the big hall? Oh, yeah, it was a health situation, don't you know? Yeah, I saw the video of him getting up and leaving, and President Xi said something to him. He couldn't really get out of his chair. I didn't know if that was because he was terrified or because he was infirm. Not sure. But he literally had to be helped out of his chair. So it looked kind of like they were hauling him out, but he had to be helped up out of his chair. They said it was health related, that he was having a health problem. He didn't appear... normally when you have a health problem, somebody doesn't come up to you and tell you you're having a health problem and help you out. Usually you have a health problem, you're like, I'm having a health problem, I need help. You don't get removed because you're having a health problem. And then if it was a health problem, why are they censoring it? No one in China saw that. It's only been seen by people in the West. So it was not part of the official coverage. But then again, if you were trying to send a political message, why was it not part of the official coverage? You know what I mean? So I'm not sure I'm going to read too heavily into that, aside from the fact that if you didn't know that China is an authoritarian regime that literally runs concentration camps in its own country based of its own citizens because they have different religious beliefs, then you're naive. China is an incredibly evil country in what they do. Now, when we talk about good and evil on a personal level, persons do good, persons do evil, countries can do good, countries can do evil. The concept of sometimes you need to do an evil thing to achieve a good outcome is an incredibly slippery slope. But whether you like the slope or not, that's kind of how geopolitics is. That's how other countries behave. So China would say to have the good of a stable country, we need to suppress these Uyghur terrorists over here, and we're going to put them into camps where they learn trade skills and become re-educated so they can be productive members of society instead of terrorists that want to blow themselves up. Other people look at that and say, you're putting people in a prison where they make sneakers all day long and have no hope of ever being released. Their heads are all shaved, they're given prison uniforms, they're fed meager rations, and if someone needs a liver and they're a match, well, what happened to Phil? Where did he go? Oh well, China's it's not a country I would want to live in. Let's put it that way. I would not want to live there. All right. Sad thing is the Ukrainian conflict could have been easily avoided. When Russia was placing troops close to the border, all we had to do was put some American troops on the border for training purposes. Yeah. There's a lot of things that could have been done differently in retrospect or in hindsight. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's incredibly regrettable. But I think this was going to happen eventually. You know what I mean? Like at some point in the future, Russia was going to do this. So now that it has happened, what is the lesson that we can learn from this? A lot of people will say, well, the lesson learned from this is don't invade your neighbors or the world's going to come and give them whatever they need to repel you. Another lesson could be we have given Ukraine multiple years' worth of Russia's defense budget in equipment and munitions and training. And it didn't just start after the invasion. We've been training Ukraine's military for years. Ever since Obama was president, we've been training their military. That's why they're as good as they are. They've been American trained with American tactics and American leadership principles. That's why they're doing as well as they're doing. One of the reasons why. I'm not trying to belittle their own, I'm not saying that they would have been nothing without that, but we've been involved for longer than the invasion. And that's part of why Russia invaded. They're like, the Ukrainian military is just becoming more competent and more competent and more competent and getting better weaponry and better weaponry. So we better do it now or we're never going to have the chance to do it. So the other lesson you could take is Russia invaded their neighbor and the world gave Ukraine everything they needed to defend themselves and even tread a 10-year head start training Ukrainian forces. Yet Ukraine got pushed all the way back to their capital city. And now, because of gross mismanagement of Russian forces, Ukraine has been able to push back and expel a large number of the Russian invaders from their country. What's the lesson that China takes from this for Taiwan? If we attack Taiwan, other nations will come to Taiwan's defense, and it could lead to some uncomfortable embargoes, even things that we didn't think other countries would do because it's not in their self-interest. Like blocking oil, sales and things like that. China makes so much stuff that you would never embargo China because you wouldn't have any of your plastic trinkets anymore. Well, all of a sudden, then people just don't have plastic trinkets and say, whoops, okay, I guess we'll figure that out. China has learned that if they are incredibly competent and present with overwhelming force at the onset, that they can be quickly victorious before the world has the opportunity to respond. And if for some reason they are not able to complete the task before the world responds, the world will respond with all the weapons and everything that Taiwan needs. So it's important that this is an island nation, that we control the waters around it to prevent this stuff from getting in. So the lesson being learned isn't don't attack your neighbor or you're going to get your butt whooped. The lesson is don't attack a neighbor that can be easily resupplied by the rest of the world. And if you are going to attack a neighbor, make sure you attack them so thoroughly and so completely that they have no chance of responding. So Russia didn't attack any of Ukraine's infrastructure in the onset of the war. Why? They wanted it. They wanted the electrical grids and the power plants and the hydroelectric dams and all this other stuff. Why would you blow up the stuff you want? So when America invades Iraq, we take out all the infrastructure. Power grids go down, sewage treatment facilities go down. Everyone's like, you're attacking the people. Well, the people enable the leadership. So if you attack the things that make people comfortable, they eventually go after their leadership, right? Now, the challenge you have with Russia is when you blow up people's children and their parents and their brothers and their sisters, and then you attack their infrastructure, they just get more angry and more determined. When you blow up the infrastructure at first, it reduces the enemy's capability of responding. So you take out the command and control, you take out the power, you take out the sewage, you take out the water, you take out all those things, and then as you're advancing on your enemy is degrading from behind. Russia didn't do any of those things. So Ukraine had the full capability of its rail lines and its electrical systems and its manufacturing capabilities to answer the Russian invasion. Well, now Russia's blowing all that stuff up because Russia is realizing they're not going to win this war potentially at all, and they're certainly not going to win it if they allow Ukraine the ability to repair and resupply. So they need to take all that away. How can we take all that away? We take away their ability to charge their Starlink terminals or to power their satellite terminals or whatever else we need to do to knock this out. And that's what they're doing. China doesn't realize anything that you don't want to. China doesn't release anything you don't want to see. Think propaganda machine on all four cylinders. Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty. All right, last call for questions, guys. Did the problem with Secure Updater Adobe Reader DC get fixed? I believe the DC Reader did get fixed, and now we have another. That fix caused a problem with LibreOffice. So yes, we are working through this right now. Basically, Windows 11 is a more secure operating system. It's required everyone to step up their installers, and a lot of companies took that opportunity to remove the command flags from the installers that allow for silent installation. They don't tell you what the command flags are. So they want to be able to do a silent installation in some circumstances, so they leave the flags in place. So if you're on a DOS prompt, for you old DOS users out there, you'd type in like setup.exe space / lowercase s for silent mode. Sometimes it's capital S for silent mode. Sometimes it's Q for quiet mode. Sometimes it's capital Q. Sometimes it's QM. Sometimes, so you have to go through all these different iterations of what it could be until you figure out what the quiet mode installer is that doesn't install all the bloatware, and then you get your installer. So we're working through a couple issues there. We've resolved the Adobe Acrobat DC Reader. I expect the LibreOffice to be resolved here. LibreOffice is fine. It installs just fine. It just keeps reinstalling. So the next time it scans, it installs again. We don't want that to happen. Yep, Thomas, that's exactly why. Thomas says he had LibreOffice installed twice in 3 days. It's exactly what's happening. So the version number is reporting incorrectly, and so that's the issue. Sometimes they change the name of the program, so it'll be like LibreOffice, and they'll put a little like mark on the E, like LibreOffice, and that little mark will be enough to say, oh, that's not the same program, it's not a match, so therefore Secure Updater. So if they change the name of the program as it reports in the registry, not what you see, but the one in the registry, if they change, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, and our guys are working on making sure that stuff continues to work for you as well. All right, guys, I've got to roll out. I appreciate you joining me for the program today. Thank you for coming into the service centers and choosing Schrock to do business with. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to my people. And I really wanted to say thank you to everybody who has pulled me aside or pulled one of my staff members aside over the last few weeks and just told us what a great job we're doing. It means, we're experiencing the same kind of labor challenges that every other business is experiencing. The difference is we try not to let it show. Other businesses are going to put signs up on the window that says, due to staffing shortages, your wait time might be longer. Or due to staffing, I translate that, due to staffing shortages, your service experience is going to be crap. Deal with it. And that's, when you start admitting that you're just okay with having crappy service, then that becomes the culture, and that's not our culture. So we're not okay with crappy service. So that's why when we're short-staffed, I'm in the service center answering the phones and greeting customers and doing all the things I ask all my people to do. Everyone's like surprised that I'm in there. Like, wow, don't you have better things to do? Well, yeah, there's other things I have to get done also. But right now, the most important thing I have to do is take care of you. How can I help you today? And that's the culture that we want to have at Schrock. That's the culture that we strive for at Schrock. That's what I have to exemplify for my people so that they come away from that saying that's how we need to be as technicians. And it rubs off. It does. And it creates kind of a fun atmosphere too. God, what were we talking about the other day in there? Oh, I'm trying to remember what it was now. We were talking about something hilarious, and it was just I don't know, I forget. But it was really funny. I'll remember it next week, I promise. All right, guys, I got to roll out. Have a great week. We'll see you again next Sunday for another edition of Compute This.